Okay. So you can see me now. Handy. My computer is yelling at me because I apparently have high CPU usage, which, go big or go home. So I have supplies today. I'm slightly more prepared than I was on Wednesday. Slightly, not overly much. But enough that I feel good about myself. Also, I'm sorry, but I'm still sick. So if I occasionally, wipe my nose and stuff, it's not because I'm being rude or gross. Or at least not intentionally. Is anybody there? Maybe. Am I alone again, like on Wednesday when I just sat here for 15 minutes before anybody showed up? I give you guys an hour warning. Well, okay, today was 45 minutes, but usually an hour warning before this starts, and still nobody is here on time. I feel so hated. Oh, hey! Okay, so we do have a person. Yay! Aren't you supposed to be watching sword fighting or something? Are you excited to hear all about outlining and plotting? Because I'm excited. This is something that I actually know and can talk about for maybe 5 seconds instead of 0 seconds, like character development. Even though I know that too, but I'm not used to talking about it, so that was a little different. A hybrid version? That sounds dangerous. I am the Sharpie version of Wolverine. Check this shit out. I have supplies today. I have Sharpies. And I also have the best things in existence, which are giant Post-its. Giant Post-its! Which is super handy because I moved so that I have all this lovely wall right here to stick shit on. So, yay! Yes, they do make giant Post-its. Isn't it amazing? It's called a big pad. Look at this. Look at this. Big pad. I got this. This has 30 sheets, and I got 2 of them, and I've already used several of the blue ones. But they were, I want to say, $2 or $3. Not expensive at all. And I picked them up at Walmart. But they probably have them at, Staples or any other office supply store, I would imagine. But yes, giant Post-its. It's awesome. And instead of having just, the sticky strip on one side, it's on both sides because they're big and they need more sticky. Everybody needs more sticky sometimes, don't you think? I'm a terrible person. I know, they are the best thing ever. Giant Post-its. This is all this live stream is going to be about. Giant Post-its. So, I did outlining / plotting because you can't really outline before you plot. You need an idea of what you're freaking writing. So, my assumption is that anybody who's watching this already has an idea, something you want to write, even if it's just a super vague idea, just have some sort of an idea of what the hell is going on. So, once you have an idea, there are a couple ways you can go about outlining, and I'm going to show you a few of them. So, on giant Post-it number 1, I'm making what is called a web outline. Sometimes it's called a circle outline. I've heard it called a spider outline before. So it really depends on where you went to school, I think. But this is the kind of outline that you typically make in elementary school. But it can be used now as well. So, the way that this works is I just drew a circle, and you would put the title or working title. If you don't have a title yet, it could just be awesome book. That is what I am titling my next book. Awesome book, yeah. Alright, so this is my outline for awesome book, yeah. So, once you have your title in the middle, you can use this form of outline for a few different things. If you want to use it for your characters, then you can put names on each of the legs or strands of the web, or however you're imagining this. Maybe it's a tick, I don't know. So, let's see. I'm going to have Bob, Sally, Frederick, Dominique, Paul, and Cinderella. Because why the hell not? Okay, so I wrote my character names on my lines, and if you're doing this for characters, there are a couple different ways to do this. If you are thinking of this as more of a web method, you can use lines to connect characters that are together, maybe romantically or siblings or something. So let's say I do a line from Sally to Frederick and write siblings. And maybe from Dominique to Paul that says lovers. So I'm connecting people, which will help me remember, oh, right, they are connected somehow. You can also make other lines off here, like, we'll play with Bob here for a minute. And you can put whatever information you want. It could be age, or personality traits, or what kind of work they do. Honestly, I think that this kind of outlining is really basic. It can be altered. I mean, instead of characters, you could have themes in your book, or plot lines, or, you know, whatever you need to organize. I think that this kind of outlining isn't the best once you really get going and need more outlining and need to actually know what's going on. But if you're just starting and you're not familiar with outlining, this is a really easy route to go. So that's an option that you have. This is not an option I personally use. I mean, I did when I was in school a million years ago. But check that out. Look at that. You can see it forever now. Okay, I'm going to open up my yellow Post-its here because I really want to use a yellow one. So, in the meantime, does anybody have any questions about the web outline / circle outline / spider out, whatever you want to call it? It's telling me that I have quite a few of you watching. I don't know if that's true or not. But if it is, you should really be commenting, because I like to hear feedback and know that I'm not just making a fool out of myself and all that jazz. Nothing. No comments. Alright, fine. Fine. I'll just be alone. Oh, wait, I forgot there's a delay. You guys probably didn't even hear that yet. I got banned from posting for 30 seconds because I typed too much. I'm sorry. I didn't know that was even a possibility. That's kind of funny. Stop talking, gosh. Alright, I'm going to talk about storyboarding next. Now, this is a method that I used to do a lot. And I don't really do it as much anymore, but I've been seeing a lot of it recently, particularly on Twitter. And it kind of makes me want to start storyboarding again. Now, storyboarding, when used in the context of movies and shows, is a little bit different than people who are using it to write, although I imagine if you're writing a screenplay or something, then storyboarding would be really similar to what they use it for in movies and all of that. But the method that I'm going to talk about is a little bit different. Storyboarding! Yay! Okay, so there isn't really much I can show you concerning storyboarding because honestly, storyboarding is all in pictures. If you are storyboarding, then you are basically searching the internet or your local library or whatever, magazines, catalogs, it doesn't matter what you use. But you're looking for pictures that relate to your story somehow or inspire you somehow. You're basically telling the story in pictures. A lot of people like to post their storyboards on places like Instagram or Tumblr or Twitter or wherever. And they're cool to look at because you see a lot of pictures and the story that comes to mind for you may not be the same as the person who made it, but that's the fun of it. So, like, let's see. Now, some of you may know that I teach paint classes, but there's a reason I don't teach doodle classes. So you can just not make fun of me for my horrible drawings. That would be great. So I'm doing a bunch of really random drawings, and honestly, I have no story in mind for this. So this is basically the best story ever. I'm gonna add a tree. Now, usually when you're storyboarding, you're not gonna be drawing. If you love to draw, go ahead. You can draw your storyboard. I find it easier to use Google and type random crap in. You know, I'm a slacker. So, you know, stuff, things. And then a big old sad face. This is a sad, sad day. Okay, so here's my storyboard. There's a flower and a heart and a rainbow and a smiley face and a really tall skinny tree and a really sad face. That's my storyboard, and yeah. Honestly, storyboarding is not outlining, but it can still be helpful. So if it's something that sounds interesting to you, give it a try. Because, you know, whatever. You never know what you're gonna like. Yes, the spider slash bubble slash web slash whatever is useful when you're connecting information. If you don't use a program that automatically connects things for you, then that's very helpful. Personally, the program that I use to write will automatically pick up when you mention like two people at the same time or other things like that, and there are places where you can just enter it in, like this person's with this person, blah 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 blah. But anyway, I'm gonna switch back to blue. And I'm moving to the gray Sharpie. What color is this? Navy? Whatever. It's a color I haven't used yet, I don't think. Oh, okay. Ooh, storyboarding on Pinterest. I forgot about Pinterest, which is basically a sin because I'm on there all the time. Yes, Pinterest is also really good for storyboarding because you can literally set up a board on Pinterest for your storyboard and just like title it the name of your story. Boom, done. Yes, that is a very good point. Okay, so here's something that I do a lot because, sorry, I have the hiccups. As I've mentioned before, I'm obsessive when it comes to outlining and plotting and all that stuff. Character bios are extremely helpful. If you've ever done a sort of game like Dungeons and Dragons or any other tabletop role-playing game, or if you've done like forum posting where it's like back and forth, anything like that, then you're probably really already familiar with making a character bio sheet. If you haven't done anything like that before, but you're still writing, that's okay. But you really should try making character bio sheets for at least your main characters. I find it's really helpful for side characters as well. Generally, if there's somebody who's going to be in more than one chapter, I'm going to write a bio for them. Or if they're really super important and still only in one chapter, but they're doing something worthwhile that's going to make a difference in the story, then I will still make a character bio for them. Now, my character bios look like this. This is one character, this is another character. So that's just what mine look like. I have done longer ones, but for the sake of keeping all of my stuff in one notebook for this particular work in progress, I've kind of limited myself. So if you are doing a character bio, I can't spell today. Okay, character bio sheet. Character bio sheet, yay! Okay, so what you're going to want is you're going to want the name and then any other relevant information. So for mine, I do age, whether they are married or not, and if they are, to who, or engaged, or whatever it's called in your book. Maybe it's called something else, like bonded or whatever. Whatever. Then I do whether or not they have children. Then I do other family ties, such as if their parents are still alive, if they have siblings, relevant aunts, uncles, anything like that. And then I will generally do what I call a paragraph bio, which is basically just a large chunk of information that gives background, personality traits, and motivation, for lack of a better word. Like, what is really driving them to do whatever it is they're doing? Maybe your character isn't doing anything. Maybe your character is a student, and that's it. Like, they're going to school, and that's their entire purpose in the story, and that's fine. Maybe their motivation is they want good grades, or they want a good job, or whatever. Sometimes it can be helpful to use Google or Pinterest or whatever and find a reference picture. This is especially helpful if you are a super visual person, but it can be good to have a picture of somebody that looks maybe not exactly like, but similar to how you're picturing your character. Because sometimes when you're writing details about appearance, you can get a little redundant accidentally, or maybe like in one scene you describe them as having long curly red hair, and in the next scene it's short and black. I mean, inconsistencies like that will obviously be picked up by your editor, beta readers, things like that. But if you have a reference picture and you have that in your head or saved on your computer somewhere with your character bio, then you'll always see it and you'll always know, oh, that's what they look like. So that can be really helpful, and all the words are backwards. I just realized this is probably not the most helpful thing to you guys, but it's still entertaining me to make these, so I'm going to still keep making post-its and having a ball over here. That's what I'm doing. It's just having a good old time making a blue and yellow checkerboard out of post-it. Your MC has a 15-page bio, and secondaries have at least 10 to 12 pages. You're crazy. No, I have done really long ones before, but for this particular piece I have not. And actually having shorter ones is working out for me, so I may keep it that way. Now we're going to get into what I call super territory, where you just are going crazy with your outlining power. This is something that I do, and I have found through talking to several people, dozens of people, that this is not a common thing to do. Some people do it, most people don't, and that's fine. I just really like to plan. So I find that when I plan things thoroughly, you may still deviate from, here's your point A, here's your point B, and you might be adding a couple more random points in there, or maybe the story doesn't end how you think it's going to, but it's still really easy to get there. I find that if you know where your story is going, then getting there becomes a lot easier. Kind of like if you know where you're supposed to be driving to, you can just drive there. Sometimes things get in the way, but I find that if you do a character bio and you already have their personality in mind, it's kind of easy to work around it. I don't really run into having characters that don't want to do what I want them to do. The only problem I have that's close is sometimes my characters decide that they love each other. And it's usually, people that are supposed to want to kill each other. Sometimes that happens, and when it does, I just kill one of them off, because killing characters off is my favorite thing ever. So, I'm a terrible person. But the next thing that I'm going to talk about is chapter outlines. Yay! Okay, so chapter outlines is when you decide that you have become so anal that you must plan everything. Now, before you freak out, keep in mind, chapter outlines are not like a full-on huge 2-paragraph summary about this is what's going to happen in this chapter, and this is what's going to happen in this chapter. It's really like my chapter outlines. Okay, this right here is the first book of my trilogy broken down. It is 20 chapters with a prologue and an epilogue. Now, it's about half written, and some chapters are really short and some are really long and have to be broken up into more than one. So I may not end with 20 chapters, and that's okay. I mean, I can guarantee you I will end with an even number if I have anything to say about it. But as you can see, they're numbered, and then I have a line about what's happening. So, here are a couple examples of some of mine. Let's see. Chapter 13. Cassie and Michael visit the Music Emporium. That's it. That's the amount of detail that I have. Basically none. Chapter 17, Michael's mother flips out, Cassie finds a picture, Eliana leaves. That's it. I mean, it's not really thorough stuff. The most that I have for anything is 3 lines for the epilogue, because I didn't want to forget things that I thought of that should really happen in the epilogue, because I know how the second book is going to start, and there are things that need to be put out there before that starts. So this is my whole book. It is on 1 sheet of paper, not even front and back. So if you're doing a chapter outline, don't freak out. I would recommend trying it. Even if you're not somebody who typically outlines or plans or anything, trying a chapter outline is not something that is going to ruin your book, story, screenplay, whatever. So it wouldn't really hurt you to try it. If you really don't want to, you don't have to, obviously. But if you're doing chapter outlines, you want 1 to 2 lines describing what is going to happen in that chapter. You should mention any main characters that are going to be appearing in the chapter. And that's really it. You're just giving a very brief description of what you want to happen in the chapter. Now, for me, doing my first book set of chapter outlines was really easy because I already knew where the story was going. So I did my chapter outlines before I even really started reading the book. Now, sometimes you can't do that because you're not really sure. So your chapter outlines can be pretty rough, and they can change a lot. I mean, maybe you do a really rough set of chapter outlines for like 10 chapters, and then 4 or 5 chapters in, you realize, okay, so now I've thought of a whole bunch of things that need to happen in the future. And there's some things I wrote down that really don't need to happen because they already happened. You can revise. You can make a whole new set. It doesn't need to stay the way it is. I mean, as we all know, when you're writing things, they're gonna change. Yay! Chapter outlines! Ooh. But, okay, so we went over the web outline, storyboarding, character bios, and way up here, we've got the chapter outlines. That is, I think, all I had written down. Yeah, that's all I had written down for different forms of outlining. Of course, there are more out there, but I mean, it would take hours to talk about all the different ways that people choose to outline. Personally, I do a basic summary, which is not in paragraph form. I mean, for mine, like, this is the summary of my first book, this is the summary of the second book, and this is the summary of the third book. And as you guys can see, there are like random doodles and arrows everywhere and things that are written sideways and upside down, and just basically for me, my version of a summary, it says book 1, and then it says 6 character names, and next to each one, whether they're alive or dead by the end of the book. And then sort of off to the side, I have the basic themes written down, what the focus is, and where the story is going. And then book 2, I have 3 characters. Like I said, I really enjoy killing people. And I have what they're doing during the second book, where the focus is now, and some really big things that happen that affect all of the characters at the same time. And then like random notes about when they die and other things. And then book 3, I have 2 characters and whether they die or how they die, and like how the whole trilogy ends, and all that stuff, and like the timeline. Timelines are something I did not mention, and I probably should, because I've shown mine before, and I had a lot of questions about it before. So, right here, this is my timeline. It's not so much a timeline as a character death line. So, I'll show you guys how I did mine. Yours, of course, does not need to work the same way, but... Okay. So, let's say I have 4 characters. Character A, character B, character C, and character D. Now, in my book, or in my line, I should say, I have a line down for each character. Just like that. And at the bottom of the lines, I write what books they appear in. Because some of the characters only appear in the first book, some are in the first 2, some make it to all 3. So, 1, 2, 1, 1, and 3. So I'm just putting random numbers down there of the books that they appear in. That just helps keep me organized. And then I will have a line connecting A and B, and I'll write married, or lovers, or whatever. And if they are married or lovers or whatnot, you can have a line down from that that goes to character E, because A and B had a baby. Isn't that nice? And then you can have another line down for character E, saying, you know, what book they're in. You can also have lines that say, like, B and C are friends. Or maybe C and D are enemies. You know, it's helpful to know. Or maybe C and have like a half line and write adopted. And then do a line down to character F. They adopted a baby. Oh, that's so nice. And line down, what book they appear in. This is super helpful to me. I really like seeing where my main characters stand, how they're related. Sometimes having a lot of lines can get really confusing, so you can add like little lines on your line, or like squiggles or something, so that you can easily follow one line. I've had to do that several times. So this is something that I really love doing. I guess it is kind of outlining. I never really think of it as outlining, but it is a way of outlining what's going on with your characters. I generally only do this with main characters that I'm really focused on. If there are other ones like pets or really small side characters that you still want to mention, you can always, I don't have room, but if you have room at the bottom, you can add so-and-so marries, dies, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. So you can just write it. Or if you have a lot of space, or write smaller, you can do all of your characters in your whole book. And just have like a tangled web of lines that makes everybody think you're crazy. Which is probably true, because you're a writer. So, let's see. Can I do it? Perfect! I'm wallpapering my bedroom. Trying to be the next George R.R. Martin. No. I'm good with not doing that. I really like the emotional response from readers that you get when you take somebody and make them a beloved character and then kill them. So that's all I really have as far as things that I planned on talking about. So does anybody have any questions about anything? I mean, I've got web, storyboarding, character bios, chapter outlines way up here, and then the character timeline, death line. The death line, that's just what I'm gonna call it. Ooh, stay on there. Do you think this system for writing gets in the way of creativity? Shouldn't writing be more spontaneous? No. Okay, well, I say no because when I try to write by the seat of my pants and try to be a pantser, I run into a lot of problems that writers complain about frequently, such as writer's block and characters not cooperating, getting stuck, writer's block, not knowing where the story is going, not knowing where I should push the story since I don't know where it's going, and my word counts drop drastically when I don't have a plan. For me, once I have chapter outlines and once I am in a place where I know what's going on, I know the motivations of my characters, I know how they think, I know how they work, I know how they're going to react, it becomes extremely easy to guide the story along, to get it where I want it to go, and to have it all work. I do not suffer from writer's block in the traditional sense. I never wonder sorry, my hiccups are back. I never wonder, where's my story going? Or whatever. My version of writer's block is, I'm too lazy to write today. Like, I know what I should be writing, and I know that I should be writing. I just don't feel like it. So, that's my version of writer's block. I don't ever have a problem not knowing what I should write. And yes, it is a good way to avoid plot holes. And, I mean, also beta readers are really good for avoiding plot holes. But for me, knowing what's going on is a lot more relaxing. I'm not stressed out when I write thinking that, like, I don't even know where I'm going with this plot line, or where did that character go? Why haven't I mentioned them for like 10 chapters and they're supposed to be a main character? Or, things like that. I mean, I won't say my stories always go as planned. They don't. And I'm okay with that. As long as I have a plan, if I deviate from the plan, that's fine. But as long as I have one that I can fall back on that tells me, okay, this is where I'm going. And that's another reason why I always know how my book is going to end before I start writing it. Which is something that some writers say to avoid. And a lot of writers really don't like knowing how it's going to end. They like to be surprised, and I can understand that, and I can see from their point of view. I just hate it more than anything. I want to know how the story is going to end so that I know what my end goal is. So it may change slightly. Like the other day, I'm halfway done writing the first book of a trilogy, and I'm also halfway done writing the second one because I did the second one for NaNoWriMo. And the other day I just realized, hey, I thought of a really cool way to end one of these books. Not sure which one. It's probably going to be the first one, but it's more dramatic and is going to make people hate me. So I'm going to do it. Do you fall in love with your characters? Do you talk to yourself as your characters? Yes and no. I don't really fall... I love them as children. But not quite as much as my real children, because I do not cry when I kill off my characters, and I would probably cry if my children died. I would definitely cry. But do you talk to yourself as your characters? No. I do talk to myself a lot, but not as my characters. Sometimes I will talk to my characters and tell them to stop being conceited little twats, and other things like that. But no, I don't really like enact conversations with myself from the character's viewpoint. If they're being too terrible, I just make them sit in a corner. Do we have any other questions about plotting or outlining or really anything related to writing? It doesn't have to be about outlining and stuff. No questions? I'm impressed. It's been under an hour, 56 minutes actually. I enjoyed To Kill a Mockingbird. I read it in school. I think that Go Set a Watchman was a disappointing book after To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird is not one of my favorite books, but I definitely did not hate it. I'll read basically anything. I'm kind of a book whore. Catcher in the Rye, never read it. That was not on my list of books I had to read in school. I was in advanced English, and that wasn't one of them. So nope, I never read it. It's on my to read list, which is several hundred books long, so eventually I'll probably get around to it. "1984", also have not read it. I do know the general idea, and that's about it. Are we just gonna like list off books that were supposed to be read in high school? Is that what we're doing? How about Rebecca? I enjoyed Rebecca. Or The Scarlet Letter. That was a good one. Maniac McGee was good, but nobody ever knows that one when I mention it. Or The Misfits. I actually still have that somewhere. Well, it's been 1 hour and 9 minutes, and I think that nobody has any writing related questions, so it may be time to call. Oh. Have you ever edited a draft for sounding too similar to another author? No. I'm not. I don't really... My writing voice is something that I'm still working on because I don't really like what I write. Other people do, which is great, but I personally am not like a huge fan of my own writing. So as far as like voice and style go, that's a work in progress, which I think is true for every writer. It's just a constant evolving thing. As far as having an idea similar to another author, I generally fix that before it gets to editing a draft, so no, I've never edited a draft for sounding too similar to another author. Do you have any other questions? Maybe? Have you ever attempted pantsing a story? Yes. Yes, I have. I never used to outline. I used to be a pantser. Sometimes it went okay. It never went extraordinarily well. I can pants the hell out of short stories. And, you know, like contest works. Things that can only be, you know, a certain length. But when it comes to like an actual piece, not so much. So now I just outline everything. Alright, what do we think, guys? Are we calling it? I think we're calling it. And I think that's everything. So again, thanks for watching, and I hope I answered all of your questions, and if you have more, this video is going to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, so you guys can rewatch it or send it to somebody who needs it or whatever. But you can comment on there, and I'll respond, or another writer will respond. Talking is hard. Okay, so that's it.